Yep, we're hanging out. We wanted to hang out with you today and spend a little time talking about some of the things going on. Wow, there are so many things that are happening right now in society. It's like that there's a spiritual war in the American society right now over ideologies and what people think, and the absolute rancor that's being bantered about, even in our political arena. But today what we want to do is we want to talk about the untimely death of Antonin Scalia, one of the Supreme Court justices, and actually probably one of the greatest men that America has ever seen, for a number of different reasons. But we wanted to talk a little bit about Antonin Scalia. And so, Dal, you want to say anything about Antonin?
Well, he came on the bench, the Supreme Court bench, in 1986, was appointed by Ronald Reagan. He's a strict constitutionalist. You want to explain what that means?
Well, what a strict constitutionalist or an originalist actually means is this, is that a strict originalist is a man who believes that the Constitution is a dead document.
That doesn't mean that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean, right. It doesn't, a dead document does not mean that he thought the document was actually dead as far as its ideas were concerned. What he meant was that the Constitution needed to be interpreted through the minds and the eyes of the framers, and not according to our culture.
Yeah, what's happening to the day, because the culture keeps changing. But it's like the Bible. You take the Bible for, it gives us a whole bunch of guidelines to live by. And we still live by those same guidelines.
It's an interesting thing, even about the Bible, though, Dal, is that Abraham, when his name actually was changed, or Moses, when Moses went over to see and said to himself, I'm going to go and see why this bush is burning, but it's not being consumed. The invitation to walk with God was given to all men, but it was only two of them that actually really took up God on his offer. And what they did was that they applied their life to the presence of God and didn't attempt to apply the presence of God to their life.
Yeah, and so now we need to apply the Constitution to
exactly. It's exactly the same way. And what Antonin Scalia stood for, whether you believe in his ideologies, agree with the way that he stood for the Constitution, or the way he did not, that's really immaterial. What needs to really be thought about in the memory of Antonin Scalia is that he was more interested in being able to make sure that we as a people were able to hold on to the freedoms that were given to us through the Constitution by our framers than he was in the comfort of our times. Because he himself even said, when he was asked, what does he believe the borders of morality and character really are? And he answered it like this. He said, for those things, he said, I'm afraid to ask. But he said, I do know the Constitution. And the Constitution gives these freedoms to all men from God, and not necessarily from human beings or from the culture that they currently live in.
And so how does his death affect us today? I mean, why should anybody care, that he died?
Well, right now, the Supreme Court basically has on it, there are four people who see things from a Constitution perspective, and four other individuals who interpret the Constitution through the eyes of the culture in which we live. And that's the difference in between being what is called a liberal or progressive, or actually being a conservative individual, is that one sees that the Constitution is immovable, while the other one sees that the Constitution is actually interpreted through the eyes of the times. And so right now, there's approximately four on the strict constitutional side, and there are four that are on the side of the moving and ever living and evolving documents of our founders.
And the members of the Supreme Court stay on for life. So once they've been put into office, then they stay on
Right.
until they die.
It's a lifetime appointment, and
so it really
and
makes a big difference.
in these years of President Obama's presidency, there have been actually 2 Supreme Court justices that have been appointed, and 2 females, and they really have the viewpoint. They have a very maternal viewpoint, which is, let's take care of the children, and let's, do the best thing that we can do for our kids now. We're going to love our kids no matter what. And so there have been 2 Supreme Court justices put on the bench in these last 7 years. And there's a big fight right now. It's a huge fight of whether or not that in the last 10 months of not even 10 now, it's almost just.
Well, it is 10 because it ends, President Obama's term ends mid-January of next year.
Well, that's really true, but the election of the new president is going to be in November the 4th, and so it's been throughout history. There have been times when this has occurred before. Right now, it just seems like it's a very, very difficult time because there is a real struggle for the soul of America, and so the Democrats are actually out there saying, let's go out there, let's get this done. The president has a responsibility to be able to nominate someone for the Supreme Court. Now, you need to remember that when you think about this, is that he has the responsibility to nominate. He does not have the responsibility to appoint. He does not appoint justices to the Supreme Court.
No, the Congress votes on
nomination. Actually, the Senate. Actually, what they do is that they vote on the nominations that the president brings forth. And they have as much responsibility to say whether or not that is good for the people of their represented states. And so that's the reason why our government works the way it does. It has 3 branches of government. Of course, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And those three portions of government actually play somewhat of an equal role. And so what is being said now is that there's a lot of anger that's flying about that there should be a new Supreme Court justice that needs to be placed upon the bench before the end of President Obama's term. But what's being said on the other side of the table is that throughout history, it is better for the country if, in fact, that the president withholds nominating someone until the new president comes in that is representative of the people. And so there are these 2 sides that are going on that are having a real difficult time making those kinds of decisions. Let's talk about Antonin Justice Scalia's. Let's talk about his friend, who was his best buddy.
On the court.
Well, actually, in life.
Oh,
really?
I didn't realize that.
Ruth Ginsburg was Justice Scalia's best friend.
It's very liberal.
Who was very, very liberal in her perspectives. But all the way back into 1986, I'd heard an account when people who worked at the court or after Antonin was actually placed on the bench, that from that particular time, the people that worked for Justice Scalia noted how deep of a friendship that the Scalias had with the Ginsburgs, that actually they went on vacations together. They spent time together as families, and this particular person said that
in spite of their opposite views.
In spite of their opposite views, and this individual said that they couldn't believe that when they asked the Justice Scalia where he was going to spend New Year's Eve on their first year of working with the justice, all of them went over to the Ginsburg's apartment for New Year's Eve. And so they were good friends. And people that have opposing views are not necessarily enemies. They both want the same things, but it's how we achieve them that becomes different. And so, Linda, can you talk a little bit about the Justice's family. Have you thought about his family at all?
Justice Scalia's family?
Yeah, Justice
Well,
Scalia's
he has,
family.
what does he have, 9 children?
9 children. He has
I don't
9
remember
children.
how many grandchildren. But
Unreal.
I'm sure they're all
9
shocked.
children, and I'm the nation is in shock, not just a family, but we know that the Scalias really wanted to have privacy at this particular time, but there's a lot of things that are flying around as far as different scandals are concerned. And
so it's important, if you are a praying person, that you pray that the right outcome comes out that'll be the best for the United States concerning the next Supreme Court judge.
Yes, and we really need to have someone that will actually care about our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. There are difficult decisions in life, no matter who you are and where you're from. There are difficult decisions that each and every person has to make. Sometimes those decisions are positive, but there are other times when those things are negative. And so we just believe that the best thing is going to come out, and the right Supreme Court justice is going to be placed upon the bench for life, that's going to help America be America for the next 500 years. And we really need it right now.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us what's today. I mean, if there's a particular day is National
Do a Grouch a Favor Day.
Do a Grouch a Favor Day.
We just want to encourage you that when you run across somebody who's grouchy, that they might have a reason for it. You don't know what their life was like. You don't know what's happening in their life today. And so just be kind to people, even when they're not kind to you.
Yep. And I just remember, we've all heard the story of how the Grinch stole Christmas, and how the Grinch actually turned into a really, really great guy.
Because somebody reached out to him.
Somebody reached out to the Grinch
That's right.
and really cared about what was happening
fails.
in the Grinch's life, because even a Grinch has a soul just as well. And so they reached down into that soul and brought healing where there was so much extra pain. And so even during the times that people are having a really difficult time, remember, kindness actually puts out the fire of anger every day of the week. And so remember, the National Be Kind to a Grinch Day, all that stuff is really, really positive. And so let me see, do we have anything else we want to talk about? Oh yeah, I want you to subscribe to our Hangout. Of course, get some people to help subscribe to those things. And then please click like. We want your thumbs up in everything that we do. And follow us on Instagram, and that is @Robb Thompson or @Linda Thompson 74. And so until next time that we're together, why don't you tell them something really good as we close today?
Just have a great 2 weeks. We're looking forward to seeing you soon, and go out there, love yourself and love others.
Thanks for watching.